Yeah, would you mind if I
You share it? No, I don't mind at all.
I'm not really sure how to do it. I'm kind of like newer to Discord and stuff, but
Gotcha. Okay, so um, on the left hand tab, you'll see the down at the bottom over your name. It's got the share button, and it looks like a little computer screen.
oh, okay, cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
let
then
me.
you just click the specific window you want to share, so we don't see everything.
All right, cool. Yeah, I'm on my phone right now. Let me see if I can switch to that.
All right. But yeah, it looks like today's lesson is going to be mainly going over like some lighting and some of the keys of getting your camera set up in Blender, and also going over how to render out your project. So, but
Perfect.
but tackling this will be good because there are a few things that can make a render not work, and some of them can be your computer, and then some of them can be settings that can be changed, and then it'll work.
Yeah, I mean my computer is fairly decent. Not great, but
Hey, I'm in the same boat, dude. My graphics
yeah.
card's like 7 years old, and I'm
I think
running.
mine is too. I have like a 3 gig.
Yeah, I think
Full, like, NVIDIA one.
I'm running a GTX 1060, and
I think
then
that's what I have actually.
well,
That's
then,
really funny.
in that case,
Or
that
wait,
means you should be able
not
to.
10.6. I don't even know. It's like one of the GTX series though.
Well, then it should be able to do most things.
Yeah, it's like pretty good. It's better than I was using a laptop before, and like that was terrible.
Yeah,
But,
I can only imagine.
It was like a MacBook Pro. It's like has like no graphics card in there or anything. It had like the integrated terrible one.
I was
Alright, let me try to switch to my computer. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I got you. Howdy, howdy.
Alright. Yeah, is it cool if I share it? Is that alright?
Yeah, it's totally cool. Let's
Just
see.
okay.
Let's check this out.
Alright.
That is a complicated scene.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on right there.
I think I just like overdid it a bit. Like I have the so it kind of moves. I was just like trying to test some stuff out.
Oh, that's pretty dope.
Yeah, and this is just an Eevee, so it looks a lot better in Cycles, but my computer can't really handle it.
That's fair.
But I don't know if it's the lighting, like maybe I just overcomplicated it or what.
No, well, now that I'm looking at it, I see you just got a bunch of Tauruses, and then I don't know what that shape is around the Ethereum symbol. Oh, those are hands.
It's like a wreath of hands.
Yeah, it's just smaller on my screen. Okay, so that shouldn't gum up anything. How big is it? Like, how big is the 3D model?
Oh, see, that's the part like I'm not great at. I'm not sure.
Add just a cube to the scene, just like a basic cube. Okay, so and you can delete it now. So it's not huge, huh?
Yeah, I don't know. I just had to like re-image my computer and stuff too, so I wonder.
What resolution are you trying to render at?
1080, 1080 by 1080. 1440 by 1440.
that should work.
Yeah, like I've done higher resolutions before. It's
Oh wait, go back to your render settings up there.
better.
Yep. Okay. You are using that. Yep. Yeah, I don't know why it wouldn't.
Hmm.
Interesting. Oh, Crypto Wizard's here. Oh, he thinks we're doing it on Clubhouse.
I wonder if maybe it's like my output settings, possibly. I think it looks fine though. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing wrong.
No, it looks cool. Let's see. Something else too that might add to the effect of this scene is if you made because right now is it rendering out transparent?
Yeah, so I'm gonna put it in After Effects
Right.
after, because I'm like kind of learning that too. So I was gonna do some weird stuff with the background there. But
Well,
yeah, I think it's transparent.
Go to your world settings real quick. It's the 5th tab down. Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, cool. So you
Yeah.
have like an HDRI on?
Yeah, I just have
Nice.
one. So it should technically reflect up this, but it shouldn't show up in the render, I think.
Try and render out just a singular frame because that might show a little bit of what's going on. Are you trying to render in cycles or was that not working at all?
Yeah, so the frames work. Like it'll start going.
Okay, yeah.
It's just like the video, so I wonder if it's just my output. Or
Oh
something.
yeah, actually go up to
I don't want to waste everyone's time, but
No. This is what we're here for.
Yeah.
Go up to right there and scroll down. You're rendering out as a FMPG. Okay, something you could try, and it'll take a little bit longer to render, but it might render better. Is if you render out as image sequence. So if you switch that to a PNG file or an AVI RAW, if you're gonna either AVI RAW or PNG. Now, normally that would just render out a single frame if you were, that's for if you were just rendering out a single frame. But for post-production editing, if you try and render as an animation now, it'll render out an entire stream of photos that you can then take into After Effects or Premiere Pro and turn it into a video with, here, you know what, I'll show you.
Yeah, I'll give that a shot then. Let me, here, how do I, want me to shut mine off? You wanna,
No,
you can
it's
probably
fine.
take it over, right?
It's fine. Mine's running at the same time as yours, so we can, if you want to just peek at mine, I'm about to open up Premiere Pro and just show basically what it'll look like to make it into a video instead of just a bunch of pictures. But also, if you do render out that way, basically make a folder on your computer that's just called like the name of the project and then image sequence or IMG SEQ or something so you can find it later and have it render to that folder. And then it'll just, it'll keep them separate from everything else. You don't have to go hunting down every photo that it produces. And it'll also number them for you. So let's switch my screen over to Premiere Pro. Let's get a new project going. Untitled. And part of this course will also be learning Premiere Pro anyway, so this will be a sneak peek. Yeah, we're gonna be going over Premiere Pro, After Effects, all that stuff.
I've been editing video in like Final Cut for like 10 years now. I have no idea how to use Premiere Pro, but like it came with the
Creative Cloud.
Creative Cloud, so
yeah. All right, can you see my screen?
Yep. Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, so you'll probably you'll probably not see this. You'll probably see. You'd probably see the Learning tab open first, but I usually work over in the Editing tab because it just has everything laid out the way I like it. But whenever you get into this and you want to import an image sequence, you just double click here in this little box right here. It's going to open up a file explorer. Hang on, I'll share that once I find a good image sequence to pull in. Okay. Oh, perfect. I can pull in this one. Okay. Sorry, I have a lot of folders on my phone or on my computer.
I'm good, man.
Okay. I'm gonna switch to full screen share. So it'll show you everything. Alright, so you see it pulls up this file explorer, and then in this folder in the Space Cowboy folder, I have just this sequence of a bunch of images. And this is the entire animation I created in Blender. Whenever you click on the first one, the 0001, down here it'll say image sequence, and if you click that and check it, it'll pull all of them in at once as a video. So I'll pull it all in, and boom, now it's a video. And if I drag that down here on the timeline, and now it's created this video, you should see it run like that.
Okay.
And that way, also, if your computer gums up in the middle of rendering, it'll already have rendered half the photos. So, like, say it fails at frame number 100. Well, if you've done it as an image sequence, you won't have to start all the way over. You'll already have 100 frames that are already rendered, and you'll just have to start at frame 101.
Oh, dude. All right, yeah. I think that's what I need to do then.
And
I feel like it would probably be easier to edit too, like in After Effects and stuff.
Yes, yeah. Image sequence is probably the best way to go. If you really wanted to go crazy, you could edit each individual image, or you can pull it in as a video like that.
Yeah.
But now if I'm in Blender and say your computer does crash on frame 100 and you need to start rendering from frame 101, the way to change it really quickly is just right here on your timeline, where it says start. Just change your start time to the frame you need to start from. And
awesome.
Then if you click render animation, it'll start from there and pick up where it left off.
You just saved me so much. I get so mad like when I come back like I think
that was the knowledge of that was because of getting mad about it.
Yeah.
And like, I didn't want to wait for, I didn't want to pull it in as a MPG file or MP4 file. To Premiere Pro straight out of the box with all these frames and it not be correct, or maybe I need to change the frame rate or something. It's a lot easier if it's an image sequence.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
Also, while we're in Premiere Pro, once you're in here and stuff and you want to edit your works, you can do some of these things that are here in Premiere Pro and on Photoshop in Blender, in the compositing tab, because this tab right here is basically post-production for your work. So if you came in here, you could click use nodes, and from this layer you can like render out your scene. So I'm gonna render it super quick, just one frame. Okay, and okay, and if I add in a viewer node and attach that there, I can actually see what I'm working on here. And if I Alt if I click V, it'll zoom out a little bit. And I can do things from here like, let's see. I can do my color correction from here, or if I want to do a color ramp, actually. Or not color ramp, color RGB curves. Gosh, my brain went blank for a minute there. I can do that from here. Attach that to the viewer. And I can edit it real time and it'll show me what's going on.
That's cool.
This is nice and all. You don't get, you can make a lot of the same effects that you can do in Photoshop or Premiere Pro, but those applications have more than just this. But I've done plenty of post-production editing purely from Blender right here. But I'm gonna get rid of that for now. Okay, now let's go. All right, welcome to the second Blender lesson. We will be going over some lighting effects, some keynotes about learning how to get your camera set up correctly, and we'll be going over how to render out your project. So a few quick things. Let's go ahead and get rid of this main scene here by clicking A and X. A selects everything and X will delete everything, and it'll give you an option to select yes or no. But that's just so we can get a clean slate to start the project on. Now let's add in a good model to test lighting. So if I come up here to add and mesh, I'm gonna pull in Susan, our monkey. And to go ahead and get some basic lighting on the scene, because right now we're in rendered view, which we went over last time, but there's no lighting going on, so it's just gray. So let's go back up to add. And for this, let's add in a simple point light. Now, point light is light emitting from one point, and it'll emit in all directions, and it's the most used light. And while we're at it, let's go ahead and switch over to cycles rendering, because right now we're in Eevee, which is fine, but cycles uses light ray tracing better than the native Eevee. Eevee is great if you're working on some projects, but if you're trying to get that more realistic lighting effect, cycles is better. But it does take longer to render. All right. So to start off, I'm going to just set up a basic light and just crank it up a little bit. Something like that. Now we can add in a camera to our scene. Now, whenever you render, it doesn't just render what you're looking at. You actually have to have a camera set up that it can render from. And that's where the images are produced. So let's go back up to add. We can go all the way down here to camera. That'll add in a camera to our scene. And for now, if you want to just move your camera around from the middle, but you don't want to have to drag it everywhere and keep guessing where it is and stuff like that, if you click first 0, that puts the camera in our frame. And now if you click in to pull up our toolbar here on the side, we can go to View and Camera to View. Now what that'll do is the camera will now follow us as we move around the scene. So we can actually look at what we're doing and pick out our camera placement through the viewport. If we turn it off, we can zoom in a little bit, turn it back on, and we can move around from this view. So let's just get a basic looking off to the side, Susan. Looks good to me. I'm going to turn it off, and I'll close the toolbar here by clicking in again. And now we're looking at the scene through the camera where we want it. We can zoom in and out, we can move around, but this is basically what our render will look like. Now, if we want to change the size of our camera, as in the resolution, we can do that from this tab right here, the Output Properties tab. And it's the first few choices here. So for this scene, I want to go for a square. Now I could go 1000 by 1000 or 2000 by 2000, whatever I like, but just know the higher the resolution, the more effort your computer is going to have to put in to render this scene out. Most computer screens are 1920 by 1080, meaning if you render this out as a 4K image, you're not really getting much benefit out of that, unless they have a 4K monitor. There's also different render sizes for different phones, so if you're expecting your render to be viewed on a phone, then there's no reason to set the image quality up to 8000 if you're just trying to get a single image that people can look at and it look nice. But for now, I'm just going to set this to 1500 by 1500. And you'll actually see the camera change here. I'm actually going to move our camera a little bit since we've changed up how our resolution is. So I'm going to pull back open that toolbar and click Camera to View again. That looks good. Now, while we're setting up our scene, I'm going to go ahead and make our background completely black so that we don't have to deal with this gray, crappy looking background here. So I'm going to go to our World Properties tab, over to Color. I'm just going to set that to black. Now, if we turn off our overlays by clicking this Show Overlays button up here, this is what our render will basically look like as of now. And with some very basic lighting going on, not too bad. But there are ways to make your lighting better. Real quick, I'm also going to shade smooth our Susan model. Oh, that looks terrible. Never mind, Susan. You get to stay like that. All right, so I'm going to exit the camera by rotating. And I'm going to turn on our overlays again so I can see what I'm doing. So right now, where our lighting is, we've got it hitting her face from right here, and you see this big shadow on the other side of her face, so you can't see that area. This is probably good for dramatic lighting or getting a really dark and sinister look on a character. But one of the normal lighting used in animation, film, photography is 3-point lighting. And that gives a good source of light around our subject, and it gives us the dynamics of the face. So to set up our 3-point lighting, you need 3 lights. The first one is your key light, and that is your main light illuminating your subject, providing the most light across the surface. Next, you have your fill light, which will fill in the shadows and add some depth to your character. And then you have the backlight. Now, the backlight will illuminate the edges of your character's head and shoulders to separate them from the background. So to start off, we've got our key light here. But to set up a key light correctly, you're going to want it at about a 45-degree angle from your subject. What you're looking for, even though we've got a monkey nose character right here, is a nice nose shadow, making almost like a triangle on the side of the face. So let's try and get that. And in Blender, it's a lot easier to set up these lights than in the real world. There's been a lot of times I've moved a bunch of HRIs around and then had to take them all down because the lighting setup was not correct. So this is probably as good as we're going to get with our Susan model here as a key light. I'm also going to make it a bit brighter. So let's go to 200 watts. All right. Now I'm going to add in our fill light. let's go down to light again and add in another point light. Now for this one, you want the fill light to fill in your shadows. So you're going to want it lower than your key light, and you're going to want it not as bright as your key light. It should be about half as bright a light as your key light. So I could probably go a little bit lower with that. Okay. So now we see all of Susan's face. Actually, I can probably go even lower to make it more dramatic. Okay, so now we can still see all of Susan's face. We've got some good shadows going on. If I move it out a little bit, I might be able to get better on that eye. And crank it back up to... It's all a bunch of testing out what's going on in your scene. That looks good. All right, so now we've got our key light, our fill light, and if we add in a backlight, we will have 3-point lighting. So let's add in another point light, and this one will go behind our character. A little bit, almost right behind their head. So for this one, just make it a little bit brighter, bring it up a little bit more. Maybe too bright. Our Susan model is not the most astonishing model for testing lighting on, but we'll see if we can work with her. Maybe we should shade her smooth. There we go. So you see that sort of rim around her head? Where the light is hitting it?
Yep.
Okay. Let's find a good, reasonable wattage. There we go. Now we have a basic 3-point lighting setup with a very basic character model here. Now from this, you can go and make your dramatic lighting on your characters, or you can change this up however you want. This is not a rule, it's more of a starting point. And it's said a lot, you have to know the rules to be able to break them. So if you know 3-point lighting, then from there you can break it and still make it look good. But now that we've got that basic done, I'm going to get rid of our Susan model, and I'm going to add in a more complex character model and apply the same 3-point lighting structure to her. So let's go over into MB Labs. MB Labs is an add-on for Blender. It's a free add-on, and it's very useful and good for setting up basic character meshes for your scenes. And it makes pretty decent skeleton structure for them and allows you to edit like their skin tones, their eyes, and every little bit of muscle changes that you need to make to your character. So it's a very nice add-on. And I'll link it in our Blender chat later. But for now, let's just add in basic male character.
Forget that, or do you have to download it somewhere?
Yeah, so here, I'll go over how to download that. Let's see. I'm going to pull up the add-on. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna post a GitHub site that will go over like a little tutorial on how to download it. Oh, actually, here I found their main website. So let's get that. And I'm gonna post that here in the chat now. Actually, I'm going to post it in the links tab so that it can be with all of our other good links. Oh, I might want to copy the URL. Okay, and there it is. And that will give you characters like this. Basic 3D model that you can change and edit however you like. It's kind of pixelated here because we're over in cycles and a lot of polygons going on, a lot of places for light to bounce. So let's quickly just finalize our character. But this is where you would change the body measurements right here in the character design. You can go in and change all of these different features of your character. I'm not going to get too in-depth with MB Labs. There's tons of great tutorials for them, and I'll post some links to those as well. But it's a really good starting point for making characters, learning how to understand the way they work, and it's a free add-on. It does have some long load times while it's creating the model, but I mean, the complexity of the models it creates is amazing. So let's go back into our Finalize tab. And now we wait, and it'll take like a minute to finalize our character. And once it does, we can select preset poses for it as well. Any questions while we're waiting on it to load up?
That's pretty cool. I've been just like doing mine. I've been trying to do mine from scratch, but this seems a lot easier.
It is a lot easier. It basically turns it into a video game character creator, because you can go in and change every little thing. And if there's something that it doesn't change, but you want it to, you can take it into edit mode. And oh wait, I have the skeleton selected. Hang on. Okay, if I go into edit mode, it has a polygonal structure. So you could go in and edit the polygons of the character too.
Yeah, that's really cool. So I was looking at like just some of the free like 3D asset sites we kind of looked at, but a lot of those are they're already like remeshed and stuff, so you can't really edit them too well. So
well,
that's no.
With this one, you can also like it comes fully loaded with character skin textures and eye textures and everything. But if you go over here to the materials tab, you can literally take all of those off and make all your own textures. You could make this character chrome if you wanted to. But the textures it gives are pretty good. Let's see if it'll let us see what the skin looks like. Oh, I'm in CPU computing. That's why my computer's yelling at me. There we go. Pretty good basic skin textures. Okay, so let's get our character in a pose. So if you come down here in the After Creations tool, you can give it a nice little pose. Let's do standing basic. And then you just let it load for a second again, and it'll change the character's pose. And they have a full skeleton, so you can go in and animate these characters too, if your computer will handle it. Mine struggles with character animations.
Sure, mine will do that.
Well, it struggles if I try and play it back while I'm editing it, it'll render it fine, but I just won't know what it looks like until it's rendered. So
Yeah, that kind of happens with my problems too.
yeah.
You think something good and you render it and you're like, oh, mess something up there.
Well, I would tell you there is one thing that helps with that a little bit, because I was working on a project recently, and I was going in and it rendered out, and I think it rendered out a couple times, and the speed of the project was too fast. But I knew that if I changed the speed and duration of the animation in Premiere Pro or something, it would be choppy because there's only a certain amount of frames it has to work off of. But there is a solution within Blender that you can change, that basically just changes the speed of what you're doing. And it'll automatically update all your keyframes and everything. So this is apparently somebody basic standing. I don't know about that. I don't know if I've ever stood like that. But this is what they say is a basic stance. I'm going to edit that, but real quick I'll show what we've got going on time-wise. So if you come over here to your output properties, and right underneath all this stuff, this little tab called time remapping. So this is what it's set at now is 100. But if I was to switch it to 200, it makes the animation move half the speed. So it doubles the amount of frames in between everything going on. So it basically slows down your animation for you, which is very nice and makes it less choppy and stuff. It's still a good scene. But real quick, let's move our camera. So I click 0 again, and I'm going to go back into view. And now I'm just going to move our camera up a little bit to the side. Let's get a little bit more on our character. And we'll zoom him in. Now, something else you can do to make your camera effects a little bit better in Blender is if you click on your camera, or if you're looking through your camera, you can just click on this little edge right here. I don't know if it'll let me reach it. Okay, I'm just going to click on it from here. Oh, I'm in pose mode. That's why it's being difficult. Okay, click 0. If you come down here to the camera settings, you've got all these neat little options here. Like the focal length of your camera lens. You can change the sensor fit on it, whether or not it's horizontal, vertical, or automatic. You can change different safe areas, background images, the depth of field on your subject here. So if I was to add in a basic cube real quick to our scene, I'm just going to put some things in the background of our character. Just some basic stuff going on. And one more. I can set a depth of field in our camera that makes things look a little bit more realistic. So click depth of field, and then I can select an object I want to set it to. So let's set it to our character here. And it'll blur out the background from our character. And I can change the amount it blurs it out by changing the f-stop here, which is basically your clarity in Premiere Pro. But there is another way to do this. If I add in plane axis. Let's get out of that. Pull that up. And I then click our camera again, and I set our focus object to, let's see, our empty, which is our plane axis. It will then focus on that, and I can change a little bit more about our focus. So say I want to get right on his face here. I'll focus precisely right there. Let's make sure it's right in the middle. Okay, and then let's go back to our camera. And now if we change our clarity a little bit lower. We can now blur out the rest of the body too, in the back of the head and stuff, and just get that face on there. Let's go a little bit higher, maybe 1.5. Oh, wrong direction. That's still wrong direction. Yes. Let's go 2. Okay. Oh, I deselected our empty. Okay, that looks good. So, now let's set up our lighting again. So if we were still trying to go for 3-point lighting, even though his head's a bit turned, we can still achieve that. Oh wow, that's pretty good nose shadow right off the bat. Okay, so this is what you're looking for, is this sort of pointed arrow down from the nose. That is known as a nose shadow, and if you look for that, and it's there, then you know you've done your 3-point, or your key light correctly. But he's a bit dark right here. So now I'm going to pull over our fill light. Now for this, should be just a little bit below that. And that's way too bright. So let's take that down to maybe 2 watts. Okay, let's see what 3 watts looks like. Okay, that's pretty good. 2.1, that's what that is. Okay, so now we've got our key and our fill. Now we just need our backlight. So I'm gonna pull this one a little bit closer, because we don't need it to be that far away. In film, you do need it to be that far away because you have to hide the light. But you don't have to hide any lights here. That is a bit bright, so let's take that down to maybe 100. That's a bit more like it, maybe even less than that. There we go. So now we've got some pretty good basic 3-point lighting on our character. You can edit it however you need it to look. That looks good. It's still a bit bright though. Let's try 30. And we will also change the radius of our light, creating it a softer light. So to change it from a hard light to a softer light, there are multiple things you can do. You can either bounce light, you can either run it through diffusion, or you can increase the size of your light, because a bigger light produces softer shadows. So let's increase our radius here. Now look at that. Now I've got a nice outline, and I can bring down the power of our light by a lot. Still coming down. getting there. There we go. That looks pretty good. So we've got our character separated from our background by the backlight, our key light filling in his face, and then our fill light filling in those shadows. And if you want to take it one step further, you can add in what's known as an eye light. Because you see right here the shadows around his eyes. It's a bit dark. You don't know where his eyes are looking at or what they're doing. And to fix that, they add in something called an eye light, which is just a little tiny light aiming right here. Sometimes they also call it a kicker. So let's add in a light, but this time we're going to add in a spotlight. Or no, an area light. And we're going to move this up to about where our camera is. And we're going to aim it right at the eyes. Let's get back in here so you can see. And you see how bright that is. Let's change that. So first we get to change our size, radius of the light. Just a tiny itty bitty light. And let's take this down to a lot less. And I'm gonna move a bit closer. This might be better with a, let's see. So that is as dark as we can go. Okay. Okay, it needs to come down just a little bit more. And over a little bit. Interesting, it's still a little bit on. See, I'm trying to get this little bit of sparkle in each eye. Now I could increase the area a bit as well. There we go. So now you can see there's a little bit of sparkle in his eye. There's a little bit of stuff going on. You know he's thinking about something, or something's going on in those eyes. All right. And now if we take off our overlays, we can see how our character will actually look. I'm thinking that's starting to look pretty good. Okay. And if we render it out and put on some denoising over here in our render properties tab, we can go in and let's just go with Optics X. And you can see what the denoising will look like in your viewport if you turn on this viewport denoising. Give it a sec to load up. Oh, that's an interesting denoiser. Let's switch that over to Optics X. Okay, let's do open image.
In general, like I know there's three there. I usually just use the NLM, like the standard one on there? Are there different ones that are better for different things?
Yes, NLM is pretty good. It's just not the best that's on there, but it's pretty good for getting in some good renders and stuff. Optics X is usually the one I like the most, and I think it does pump out some better quality images. Now in the viewport here, he just looks like somebody took and smeared him a little bit, because it's not giving it a full denoising right here, but it gives us a little bit more of an idea of what's going on. Okay. Alright, I'm going to render him out real quick with the denoiser on and see how he looks. I'll put node and see. Okay. Okay, no render output mode. I have not gotten this error before, but I was fairly certain this was our render output. So let's find out what's going on there. Interesting. I wonder. No. That is very weird. Hang on, let's find out what's going on here. I don't know if that's ever happened to any of y'all, but
I think that's happened to me once, and I just didn't have like the output folder set right or something. I think like after I changed that, it fixed it.
oh, okay. Here we go.
I can't remember what the error was that you saw.
I left the compositing on from earlier when we were going over it. I forgot I had left that on. So what happens is I didn't have the nodes set up, but I had use node selected here. So it was looking for an output in our compositing tab, but I had deleted it. I just had not closed out the compositing from earlier. So that's what that was. So now we can render. Yep, there it goes. And I will share the render screen. Cycles is great. If you want to go one step above Cycles, that's Octane Render Engine. And for that, you have to go to the website and download it. But I don't like using it specifically because it uses a different node tree for textures. And at the time, I was not looking to relearn all of my nodes that I was used to. So I just kept with Cycles and dealt with it. But it is powerful and a lot faster. And gives some more accurate ray tracing results.
But we're not great at our nodes yet. Just learn them on Octane.
Exactly. Okay. This is my computer taking its sweet time. But I want to let it finish so that we can see how it looks after being denoised. Okay, it's almost done. Also, if you are rendering out your scene, this stuff up here is very useful. It gives you a pretty good idea of when it's going to be finished, like just now. It tells you what frame you're on, so if you're doing animation work, you can sort of see your progress right up here. It tells you the memory and the peak memory used. But this is what we've got so far. So we've got the 3-point lighting showing off nicely. It's kind of a low resolution image, but we've got our kicker light giving a little bit of flash in the eyes. And with our depth of field turned on, you see even the back of the head is a little bit blurred, but the front of the face is our focal point. And the focal length that we have on this lens is 50 millimeter. 50 millimeter is pretty much what your eyes see. So that's the focal length of your eyes, which is great for some things, but is not very cinematic. So if we go back to our scene, which I will do now. Okay. There we go. We can change that up as well in our camera settings. So there are some cinematic focal lengths that you should know. 24, 34, and 80. So 24 is a wide focal length lens. You see most of what's going on. 34 is wide but not as much, and it can be good for close-ups. And then we've got our 80 focal length, which is also good for close-ups depending on what you're doing or if you're trying to see something specific far away. So that's what our 80 focal length close-up would look like. But let's use 34 for this scene. Let's see how that looks. Also, if you're trying to zoom in, if you hold down Control while you're zooming in, it's a little bit easier to manage. Because if you hold down Control and then you try and zoom in, by clicking down on the mouse wheel, you can drag it in and out. I do not like the way 34 looks on our character, so let's go back to 80. Get a nice close-up. And that is one option we can do. Now, I suggest not going above 80 and not going below 24 unless you're going for a very specific effect. But if you're trying to aim for something cinematic or something that might be more lifelike and have some, not necessarily realism, but verisimilitude in it, then stay within that range. Now, if you are trying to go for a very wide angle, sort of unrealistic, 10 milligram is a pretty, 10 millimeter is a pretty good fisheye effect. Not EM. See, you've got the fisheye going on right here with our character. Okay. I'm going to save where we're at for now. All right. And I think that's where we'll stop for the night, and we will get back to it next time, and that'll be on Monday for emissive objects and lighting with emissive objects, and we'll be going in depth with texturing, so we can get some more crazy textures going on. But both those things are a lot of fun, and we'll also be going over some different camera setups and camera movement setups in scenes. But I think that's a good stopping point for now with our nice little 3D modeled man here. And I'm actually going to render him out as the thumbnail for this video. Any questions or anything we can go over while we're still here?
I think so. What do you have your render tile settings at? That was the one thing I was trying to look at
Okay.
before. I think I know a lot of people said like 256 was kind of better.
So if you're doing GPU rendering, higher is better. But if you're rendering from your CPU, then lower is better. So
okay.
now sometimes it is better to render from your CPU, because I was actually looking at computers recently of something I might want to upgrade to, and I was going over stuff and talking with my pops about it, and we were all discussing, what different options for upgrading would be. And he found a couple articles that talked about having some like nice CPUs with 12 cores can sometimes be better than a mid-range graphics card can be. Now, obviously, if I had the money to get an RTX 3090, then that would be the best option, or a Threadripper or something. But sometimes CPU can be better. Let me see what I have it set to right now. Okay.
Yeah, it's maybe a bad time to be looking. It's like crap.
Yeah, right now I have my tiles set to 250 by 250 pixels.
Okay, cool.
And there's also an add-on. Let me find out if it's native to Blender. Okay. Okay, I'm pretty sure it is native to Blender. Let's find out. Yes. So if you go to Edit, and then scroll down to Preferences, here I'll share that real quick. Oh, you can already see it, can't you?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. Once you're in Edit and then Preferences, and you go to Add-ons, you can find Auto Tile Size. And if you have that enabled, it'll automatically pick the best tile size for your rendering that you're doing.
I just turned it on, thank you.
No problemo. And while we're here, let's go ahead and look at some other add-ons that are pretty good that come with Blender. So most of y'all will already have, let's find it. I'll just search it. It's called Node Wrangler. This one right here. This is really good if you're doing node trees in your shader tab, but I think most of the time it's already turned on. But there's another one as well that should already be installed called Lazy Viewport. This is the best add-on. It allows you to use a lot of the short keys for Blender better, because normally native Blender you are there. Can y'all see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Normally, native Blender, you are just sort of clicking it, and then you can move it, and then you click it again to end it, or you click on your mouse to end it. With this, if you click the hotkey, so G to move, R to rotate, and S to scale, then it'll pull up these options first. So you have the toolkit to do it with. So if I was to, hang on, gotta share screen again. All right, it's live again if y'all wanna click on that. Okay, so now if I click on it, and I can just click R, and it'll automatically pull up our rotate, our scale, and our movement on what we're looking at. Makes it a lot easier. Because normally I would click G to move, and then it would make me move it automatically. But now I can just click it, and it pulls up this little toolbar so I can move it in the moment.
Yeah, that's not showing up on there. Weirdly.
Lazy viewport is not. Try just typing in lazy and not typing in anything else.
Unless maybe like in the newest, I had to re-download it, so maybe in the newer version it's just turned on.
It might be. That might be a possibility. But, as long as you feel comfortable moving around your viewport, you should be fine. It's just a setting I have turned on because I get annoyed by Blender, base Blender viewport movement. So, but yeah, and let me think if there's anything else that we could cover. I think that's a good place to leave it at. Yeah, and I'm excited to go over emissive objects next time because that's a really fun way to light your scene without having to put all these lights around. It's basically just making glowing objects, but then doing them in a way that adds a new level to the scene instead of just being a glowing orb in the background. But yeah,